All right, sorry friends, welcome. It's time for our first look at Aetherdrift. Right? Just get a car and start your engines. Okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
Speed, of course, is the name of the game. Aetherdrift is a kind of a death race set, which they'll probably tell you is not a death race unless you die, which is an interesting piece of marketing. And we got start your engines as a new mechanic. This is a new mechanic that is similar to the Ring Tempts You, where once you play a start your engines card, you get a token card similar to the Ring, where you have four levels. And unlike the Ring and other like token cards where you need like the extra information on the card, it's just a counter. It's basically just like you get a speed counter, and once you're at 4, you are at max speed, which turns effects like this on. So this is land, taps your mana, starts your engines thing, and then at max speed, you can pay 3 and you can loot. So more of a common like land fixing land. We got the Raceway here, which is an uncommon one that can tap to give a creature haste, which is a very, very powerful ability to have on a land, of course. And then we have the more exciting one, Morganda Raceway. Morganda is like the crazy like vanilla creature world. And this one's very, very simple. It's a colorless land. If you're max speed, it's a free Ancient Tomb. That's a big deal, honestly. Opportunity cost here is super low. It's just a colorless land. And in order to get your speed, I probably should have mentioned that. Every turn you deal damage to your opponent, or I'm sorry, if they lose life, the speed goes up by 1. So you can never reach max speed in shorter than 4 individual turn cycles of your own turn. But it's also a thing that just happens as the game magic is going on anyway. So spots like this where you're playing a card like this where it's just a land, and this huge upgrade is pretty sweet. So that's max speed for you. We also see here, not even going to try and say it, Verbose Host. 2 mana for legendary 04 Homunculus. Once again, start your engines. These are going to be on every one of these cards. Obviously, if your engines have already started, it's just there, which is fine. And no max hand size. At max speed, if you would draw a card, draw 2 cards instead. So a lot of priority here being placed on getting to max speed. I don't think I've seen any cards yet that care about being at different speeds. It's mostly just like, can you accomplish this thing 4 times? If so, these cards turn on like an emblem and won't go away. We got another new mechanic here in Exhaust, which is pretty simple mechanic, honestly. It's basically just a activated ability you could only activate once, period. So 2 mana for a goblin here. Love goblins. Exhaust 1 red. All other creatures you control gain haste on turn and put a counter on this creature. So, pretty powerful, right? It's just like a 2/2. It could be a 3/3 and give things haste, which is cool. Only do it once. Then we have Exhaust 4 mana. Make a 4/4 dinosaur dragon token flying. So, a pretty powerful card. Obviously, like a phenomenal limited card. This is just a bear with a bunch of upside. But Exhaust is a kind of cool way to like give creatures activated abilities that are very, very powerful, but can't be repeated over and over again, which is often the issue with activated abilities where like you just get in this repetitive game state. So cool mechanic. We see the return of loot. Oh, I guess. I don't know. Cute. It's a forced cute animal thing. And loot, of course, is Teamer. 5 mana for a 2/4 double strike vigilance haste. So a pretty good stat line, you know, basically a 4/4 little upside. And it has 3 separate exhaust abilities. So exhaust for green, add the mana of any color. Exhaust for blue, ancestral recall. Exhaust for red, lightning bolt. So you have dark ritual in green, recall and lightning bolt, all powerful, can only do them once. Kind of a cool showing of this exhaust ability. Really, really good with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. But 5 mana is a lot. I'm not sure how good this card is, but it's kind of a cool effect and kind of a cool use of showing what the exhaust mechanic can do, where any of these abilities repeatedly would be way too good, but doing it once is kind of nice. We see exhaust here on some vehicles. Rocketeer Boost Buggy. This is a 2 mana Gruul vehicle, 3/2 crew for 1, so good stats. Whenever attacks, pick its treasure, and you can exhaust it for 3 and make it a creature, and put a counter on it. It's not the one to turn either. It just makes it a creature, period. That's pretty cool. When I read it the first time, I thought it was a temporary thing. So, pretty cool card, honestly. Just gonna beat down machine. A lot of vehicles in the set. More on that coming. So, now, I guess. We got vehicles. We also have mounts returning from Outlaws. Of course, Saddle. Very, very similar mechanic to Crew, as far as, you know, enchanting your creature in some way, or tapping your creatures to do a thing. Saddle, of course, is shown on creatures, not on vehicles. Saddle is almost like the fixed vehicle, where, like, the downside with vehicles is I have 4 vehicles in play and no crew, and none of my cards do anything, whereas Saddle's always a creature. We're going to see both in this set, though. So it's a 2 mana for a 2/2. Whenever it attacks when saddled, put a counter on a creature. and then you can sacrifice it to give all creatures with counters on them hexproof indestructible in a turn. Saddle ability is 1. This card is really good. Shades of Luminarch Aspirant as far as giving you a card every turn. It does have to attack, but saddling it is pretty easy. It kind of just gives each creature you play after it a pseudo haste ability. And then if you're playing with counters on creatures, having like a Selfless Spirit like this is also really good too. So it's kind of like your typical like enabler and payoff card, which is very, very good. We're going to see a lot of this card, I think. And don't forget, there's a lot of mount stuff in Outlaws Thunder Junction and a lot of survivor stuff in Duskmourn that plays very, very well with these mechanics. So we got Ligorian Soul of... I'm not going to try it. So mana for a 1/1 flying. Whenever it attacks while saddled, put 2 counters on each up to 2 target mounts or vehicles. Saddle for 1. Saddle cost and crew cost, really, really important to be cheap. Saddle 1 is very, very powerful. Saddle 2 is fine. 3 is a lot. And 4 is like an unbelievable amount. So Saddle 1, really, really good. Look for that one. But just a cool card, kind of a signpost uncommon for the Selesnya decks. We got Thunderous Velocipede.
Good lord.
Lanarovs, anyone? 3 mana for a 5/5 trample. Each other vehicle and each creature you control ETBs with an additional +1/+1 counter on it if it has mana value 4 or less. Otherwise, it enters with 3 counters on it. So this makes every future creature better, while also being a pseudo 5/5 for 3. That being said, as I said, crew 3 is like a lot. So this is not going to be a creature as often as you necessarily want it to be. That Lanarovs you use to cast it can't crew it. So I think this card's kind of cool. It's a pretty powerful effect. It's kind of cool. It's kind of like an enchantment and also a creature, but a little skeptical of vehicles that don't crew very easily. We got the Last Ride here. Kind of a cool Death Shadow variant. 1 black for a 13/13. Sound familiar? Gets -X/-X, where X is your life total. You can also pay 3 and 2 life to draw a card, and it's crew 2. So kind of cool about this card is like Death Shadow is a card you couldn't play until you actually were below 13 life, otherwise it would just die. This card you just cast on turn 1 and don't crew it until you're below 13 life. And the fact that it loses life itself and draws cards is pretty cool, honestly. Pretty cool card. Kind of fun riff on Death Shadow. I like it being legendary too, since it's very good in multiples. So cool card. Definitely a cool design. We got Hull Drifter. Get it? Hull Drifter. Everyone loves Hull Drifter, myself included. Crew 3 is a lot. Probably going to be a good limited card. But again, Crew 3, watch out for that one. Not going to be a constructed player, but a cool limited card. And then we got a lot of cards that care about crewing and mounting. And Koladin Triumph Caster, Saul Guerrero here is incredible. Boros for a 2/3 human pilot. It gives all your mounts and vehicles haste. Whenever you play a mount or play a creature, play a vehicle, it automatically becomes saddled or crewed on a turn. That's awesome. So now the problem with vehicles is often that you play a vehicle, you play a thing to crew it and attack. That's a good curve. It gives your creature kind of pseudo haste. But if you go creature into vehicle, your vehicle just can't do anything. And you don't want to block with it because you have to leave a crew back also. So this kind of like removes a lot of a downside in vehicles and mounts. Good stat line, good body. I think this card is going to be a huge deal if vehicles or mounts have any play at all constructed. And we got sort of like a Guilds of Ravnica sort of a thing going on here with all of these factions. There's one faction for each color pair. Not really like mechanic based for each faction, but like some more of like a flavor thing, I guess. We got the blue faction is the Guidelight Voyagers. Mechanic Core is their legendary creature. So for a star 3, it's a power whenever artifacts you control, powerful effect. Start your engines, and then max speed. Cast an artifact spell, pay 1 and copy it. Really, really powerful effect. Good body too, honestly. If you random artifacts in play, this is a 3/3 for 2, which is awesome. It scales really well, kind of has like the cranial plating effect. So this card's very, very good. We can see this play in older formats where artifacts are prevalent. It doesn't know how to go for the throat in standard. Card is good, honestly. Speed Demons is Dimir. Winter stops being Jund, starts being Dimir, I guess, sure. 2 mana for a 3/2 with Ward, pay 2 life. Obviously good stat line. All your artifacts have Ward, pay 2 life, and has the Exhaust mechanic. So a new mechanic here. Sorry, not a new mechanic. New mechanic, but we just talked about it. Exhaust, you can only do this ability once. Pay 4, tap it, exile X artifact cards from your graveyard, and each other non-artifact creature gets -X/-X. So very, very powerful. A sweeper on a creature if you're playing on artifacts. That being said, not an artifact itself like the core is, so a little bit of a tougher sell there, but powerful card. We got Rakdos, Far Fortune End Boss, 4 mana for a 4/5. Once again, start your engines. Whenever you attack, does 1 damage to each opponent, and then max speed. If a source you control will deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, that much damage +1. it's an okay card. Not quite shouldered, you know, but probably a good limited rare. Goblin Rocketeers is your Gruul guild. Love goblins, obviously. And Redshift Rocketeer Chief, 2 mana for a 2/3 Vigilance. Tap to add X mana of any one color or X its power, and spend the mana of only to exhaust to activate abilities. Pretty powerful effect if you can use it properly. The body's pretty good. And then as the exhaust 12, put any number of permanent cards from your hand in the battlefield. So, pretty powerful effect. Feels like a little more of a commander card, but pretty good raid too. Selesnya is the Quick Beasts, and we see Caradora, Heart of whatever. For a 4/2, not a good stat line. EDB search for a creature or mount, vehicle or mount, which is very, very powerful. Then if one of our counters we put on a creature or vehicle you control, that would be +1. 4/2 for 4 is a tough sell these days when Shock and Burst sliding in the format for Reconstructed, but pretty powerful effect. Tutor effect's kind of cool too. Get Champions or Orzhov, 2 mana for a 3/2, start your engines. Sack creatures, surveil 1, but activate only once, being very, very careful of like the aristocrat loops. And then max speed, whenever a non-token creature you control dies, make it zombie. Pretty powerful, honestly. Max speed's tough to get though. Golgari is Speed Brood, which feels like an AI name, honestly. It's like, but the Emerald Radiant, 6 mana for a 3/3. When an ETB, make an insect token for each artifact and or creature card in your graveyard. Whenever another insect dies, put a counter on this, each opponent loses 1. Plays pretty well with Delirium and the Swarm Weaver, which is kind of cool, but probably a little too expensive for Constructed. Simic is the Aether somethings. Masked Racer, 2 mana for a 2/3. A lot of 2/3s, you know, 3/2s and 2/3 for 2 mana is like the standard going rate this time. Exhaust, pay a bunch of mana, put X counters on this, and then you have the base power, and have each creature you control become equal to its power. So kind of like an overrunny effect. Honestly, not really a constructed ability, but really good and limited. And then Boros is the Cloudspire Racing Team. And we see Chandra here as a new Planeswalker. 4 mana for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker. Beginning combat your turn, choose one vehicle you control, and becomes an artifact to give it haste. So that's a really cool way to crew things, both pre and post, right? So you crew things that are already in play, or again, play a new vehicle and give it haste and crew it is really, really powerful, as I mentioned earlier. +2, sack an artifact, discard a card, draw a card. It's a fine plus ability to have. You can 0 it to make a vehicle, which is cool. Also, you can crew it. And then -7, emblem. Whenever an artifact you control ETBs, bolt something. So, pretty reasonable Planeswalker. Obviously wants to play with vehicles, but does do the vehicle thing itself as well. Not as good as making tokens, obviously, because if you have a bunch of vehicles in play, you can't crew them, but kind of a cool card. Then we got the Izzet folks, Captain Howler. 4 mana for a 5/4, ward 2 and 2 life. If you discard one or more cards, creature gets +2/+1 end of the turn. For each card discarded this way, whenever it deals damage to a player, draw a card. Seems a little bit worse than Enduring Curiosity, so probably mostly just a limited card, but sharks are cool. And we get the Aether Spark here. This is the first ever Planeswalker that's like not even a Planeswalker. It's an equipment. 4 mana for a legendary artifact Planeswalker equipment. Go Tarmogoyf. As long as it's attached to a creature, it can't be attacked, and has, whenever a creature does combat damage during your turn, put that many loyalty counters on the Aether Spark. So this can gain a lot of loyalty. +1 is the attach ability. Also puts a counter on the creature. -5 to draw 2. -10 to add 10 mana of any one color. So obviously a card you need to be careful with, because like this can gain a lot of loyalty in one big shot. But this thing needing creatures to deal damage and stuff is a little weird. Kind of a really, really weird card. Must play with this card to know how good it is. Very, very odd. The Verges! I can't even say we finished the Verge cycle, because the full Verge cycle will be 20. Because there's a big difference between a land that taps for white and then Verges for red, and a land that taps for red and Verges for white. Don't forget these Verges are basically just better than basic lands, but only for the top color. So Sunbillow Verge is a plains that can tap for red. That is very, very different than a mountain that can tap for white sometimes. So the base color is the important one. Side note here, I cannot stand that the left color in the gradient is not the main color. Like, how confusing is that, right? Like, I guess they have some templating where, like, you know, a Boros land must always be red to white, but hate it. But these are obviously very, very good. Big question. Thanks for that, Karn. But yeah, the full cycle of these is like pretty interesting. Will they do the other ones? You know, so a card like Willow Rush Verge taps for blue initially, and then green possibly. So if you're playing a Llanowar Elves heavy green deck, non-starter. If you're playing a blue deck splashing green, maybe better. So a lot of these, you know, like a Riverpire Verge really good in a mono red deck splashing blue or something like that. So the colors of these really matter a lot. It's kind of a unique thing I never seen on dual lands before. So will we see the full 20? I don't know, but here they are. We have base black, base red, base white, base blue, and base green, obviously. They're good. They're very, very good. Going to be a big deal. Glad to see the cycle continuing. We get Gearhulks again. They previewed the green-white one, I think, already, but we have a blue-black Gearhulk here. Blue-blue-black-black for a 4/4 lifelink ward 1. EDB, you get the Vendilion click your opponent. Look at their hand, pick a card, they discard it, and then draw. And it's also an artifact creature. This card's like not bad, right? 4/4 lifelink ward 1 is pretty good. Does let it go for the throat, and then it's a the discard effect is pretty cool also. There's also some synergy here as far as like if it's a discard for like Waste Not or a card draw with like a Fairy Mastermind in play. Is competing with Kaido and Curiosity at the 4-mana point in the curve, but pretty powerful card, honestly. Then the Gruul Gearhulk is a huge 6-mana 7/7 Vigilance Menace. EDB, pump the team with Vigilance and Menace, so kind of an overrun effect, and then damage can't be prevented. Pretty powerful top end card. There are a lot of those in Standard right now, so I'm not sure if this will have a home, but definitely an absolute beating in Limited. As far as individual cards that are just cool, Basri, Tomorrow's Champion. 1 mana for a 2/1 Legendary Human Knight. So Savannah Lion with Legendary typing. Matters for Mox Opal and stuff. Not Mox, Mox Amber. And 1 white, tap this to Exert. Exert means it like stuns basically for the next untap step. Makes a lifelinker. You can also cycle it. And when you cycle it, you get cats you control, gain hexproof, and indestructible to end of turn. So the fact that this is a legend with cycling is pretty sweet. The fact that it's also a good beatdown creature but has an ability where like if it's stalled on the board, it can still do something is pretty cool too. This card's nice. It's cool little 1-drop. I like it. It's also a human. We get Hazard returning, 2 mana for a 5/3 indestructible haste. There's more, unfortunately. We're gonna keep going here. Has start your engines, and it can only attack or block if you have max speed, which is not easy to do. That being said, it is 1 mana to make everything unblockable. So obviously a card that desperately needs start your engines, but in a card that's really good at dealing damage, right? So if you attack for a creature, deal damage, shock you, deal damage, and then if it does turn on, it's pretty powerful. Also good with the Soul Flare type cards. Looking for keywords, haste and indestructible, both very, very good keywords. So pretty cool. We got a Birthing Pod for artifacts in Repurposing Bay. 2 mana for an artifact, pay 2, sack an artifact, push over artifact card, mana value equals 1 plus the mana value, and then put it in the battlefield. So there are a lot of good artifacts that like, ETB and do a thing. Kind of a cool way to go through them. Less artifacts that will untap artifacts, I think. As far as like trying to do the whole Birthing Pod untappy thing, but kind of a cool card. Activity for 2 is a lot more than 1, but pretty cool. We got Quag Feast, really cool new removal spell. 2 mana, choose a creature, planeswalker, or vehicle. Mill 2, and then destroy the permanent if mana value is less than or equal to the number of cards in your graveyard. So no, like, you know what's going to happen here. It's not like you're milling and trying to hit a mana value. You're just trying to hit number of cards in your graveyard. Being able to mill and then kill a thing is really cool for graveyard decks. Sorcery is a little tough though, but pretty cool new card. We got a return of Bloodghast. Oh, I love Bloodghast. One of my favorite cards, honestly, and don't love the new art, but Bloodghast is a really, really awesome card. Plays really well in a vehicle set because it crews really well. Would love if Smuggler's Copter was around. Can't block, of course, which is a big deal, and of course it's also black, but really fun synergy card, really fun graveyard card. I adore Bloodghast, and just really, really happy it's back. And we got a bonus sheet too. We got Lord of the Undead in the bonus sheet, which is kind of whatever, and Chromox. Doesn't really change anything because like it's only really matters for limited, and it's not a very good limited card, but kind of cool, right? So as our first look at Aetherdrift, all right, so we got a bunch of new things coming up. Obviously, we got 10 new brews coming up on the early access. That's going to be on, I believe the 5th. Full set review will be on the 1st, on Saturday the 1st. We got Bronze Midnight coming up, and of course Pro Tour Aetherdrift in Chicago, which is really, really soon after the release. It's gonna be very, very exciting. So look for all that. Like, comment, subscribe, support the content. Let me know what you think. The flavor for this set kind of misses for me, but it's a cool card so far. So like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think.